Hey guys, I'm coming to you live from the heart of quarantine time, and I'm sure I'm reaching you at your homes, and if not, you should probably go back home. We're in the midst of this crazy pandemic, this crisis in the world, and maybe for a lot of us in our lives too. This pandemic has thrown a whole lot on us. We weren't expecting to not be able to go to work, and we have to work from home unless you're an essential worker. We weren't expecting to not be able to see our friends and all these kind of things. You can never expect something like this to happen in life. You can plan for it, but I think for a lot of us it even brings peace not planning for a pandemic. But the bottom line is this has thrown all of us out of whack in our lives, and we're trying to figure out, how do I work from home? How do I do that when I have all the kids running around who maybe even normally go to preschool or are watched while I go to work, and now I have to work from home with them around and they're going crazy, and I don't even have any kind of outlet to have any kind of sanity. My heart goes out to you people with especially multiple kids, and for the people that this has really hit hard. I think a big question for us has been what do we do now? We've been trying to kind of all figure that out. Did you guys know that the word quarantine comes from the word quarantina, which means 40. It means 40 days. It's an Italian word. And we are in the midst of Lent right now, and isn't it kind of funny and ironic, or maybe even not ironic, but on purpose, that this would happen to us during Lent. Lent is this time where we enter into the desert spiritually, and we give something up. Maybe you gave up social media, or you gave up chocolate, or whatever it was, or you added some things for your prayer life. Maybe you did a combination of things. But the bottom line is we use this time to sort of die to ourselves, to offer something up as a sacrifice to God, to carry an extra cross that we are choosing willingly as an offering to the Lord, and to help us to grow deeper in our faith. The funny thing about this pandemic is that it actually made us give things up that we weren't even expecting to. Did you know that you were going to be forced basically to give up eating out? Did you know that you were going to be forced to give up a lot of your freedoms? Like going to a park or going for a hike for Lent. It's you wouldn't even think about that. But we've been kind of forced to kind of give some of these things up too, on top of things that we already chose to give up. And so it's very hard for a lot of us to try to figure this all out. But this suffering, especially as a Christian, can be used as something greater. This suffering is kind of one of the marks of being a Christian. St. John Paul II once said, "Don't waste your suffering." And in a similar spirit, I plead to you guys, don't waste your quarantine. This is, if anything, an awesome opportunity to get back to our roots, to get back to the things that really matter. Maybe this is allowing some really important family time that maybe you weren't making enough time for, being busy with work and trying to support your family. Maybe it's allowed you to slow down a bit. If you're the kind of person that's always busy and up and going constantly 24/7, maybe this has forced you to slow down and to enter into silence. Whatever it is, there's all kinds of ways that we can make the most of this quarantine time. I think a big thing to try to confront is the fact that COVID has all kinds of powers in some ways, and it's up to us to not let it dominate us. In the Christian life, there's this phrase, and it's called frater memento mori, and it means brother, remember your death. And this isn't some morbid thing where it's remember the fact that you're going to die. We don't need to focus on that part too much, as much as the fact of what happens when we die. Because when we die, we are now faced with eternal life. And it might sound harsh, but where are you going when that happens? And we, with this phrase, brother, remember your death, remember the fact that we're not guaranteed to pass away quietly in our homes when we're old one day, but the fact that death can come to us at any time. And if it were to come today, if our life was to end today, and even this COVID thing, it's worst case scenario, and if if it's the end of the world as we know it, which it's not, and this will pass, but it's a good reminder for us that, to look at ourselves and be like, would I feel good about the way that I would go out? How am I spending my days? How am I spending this quarantine? Am I making extra time for prayer and calling friends intentionally and, trying to be more disciplined in myself as a person? Or am I constantly refreshing my Twitter feed? Am I getting an excessive consumption of news? Am I sleeping the days away? Am I going to bed late and waking up late and, waking up at 2 p.m. and having Fruit Loops? There's all kinds of ways that we can react to these kind of things, but are we looking at our lives and saying, like, this is going to be a good thing? And am I ready for death to take me and for me to enter into the next phase of my life? So I think something that we need to do is know that if we take care of order, then order will take care of us. So here's just some practicals on what we can do to make our quarantine great. So a great way to do this will be to make a schedule for yourself. This is going to be a game changer for you, to have some structure, to have a plan in place to be able to come through on, whether that's eating meals at the dinner table versus on the couch, or it's actually even having an actual legit schedule planned out. Like, I'm going to work from this time to this time, then I'm going to have lunch with this person in my family, or I'm going to FaceTime this person while I have lunch, and then I'm going to have prayer from 1 to 2, and then I'm going to, whatever it is, having an actual schedule so that you can have some structure and also to have a little bit of normalcy in your life in this time that seems so abnormal. Limit your screen time. You can do that by looking on your phone and seeing how much screen time you spend in a day and how much you spend on each app or on social media in general. If it's like, I'm spending more than an hour and a half every day on social media, then maybe limiting that. Put in some free time to exercise, to go for a run or for a walk. Do an exercise in your home. Set a bedtime, and wake up at that time. Don't hit the snooze button. There's all kinds of ways we can do this. There's still so many things out there for us. The birds are still chirping. The flowers are still blooming. It's springtime. But really scheduling this time is going to be a huge game changer to give you some structure. Secondly, schedule prayer time. Make prayer the bookends of your day, the very beginning and the very end, and even schedule some in between. The first thought when you rise and the last thought before you go to bed. This is going to be huge to set up your day and to end your day in thanksgiving, and giving God glory for the day and what it was. Maybe it's not the day that you expected the day to be, but it's still one for God. Make prayer the bookends of your day. Maybe kneel at your bedside. Maybe it's actually setting up some sort of even like chapel in your room or in your living room, having a crucifix and a Bible and a rosary. Maybe a miraculous medal or a statue or something like that, so that you can have prayer time in a sanctuary, making the place where you pray a sanctuary. Maybe it's reading books about the saints or some sort of scriptural meditative book or whatever it might be. There's all kinds of ways that we can pray from home. We don't need to go to the church to pray. We are the church and God is everywhere. And there's all kinds of ways that we can make sure that prayer is the biggest part of our day. And this way, when we go back to normal, we get used to making prayer the bookends of our day and including prayer time in our day. We can do this when we go back to our normal lives. I want to finish by just saying that this time of quarantine, it's not a vacation. This is an opportunity to become saints. This is a big deal. This isn't just like a sabbatical or some time off, This really is an opportunity to rise above, to challenge ourselves, to take this cross and to form good habits and to strengthen our virtue. This is a big deal. And there's a reason St. John Paul II says not to waste our suffering. One of the main focuses of Lent and as a Christian in general is to unite our suffering to Christ's suffering, unite our cross to his cross. The saints went through all this as well. St. Joan of Arc accepted her death. And when she did, while she was being burned at the stake, her last words were, "Hold the cross high so I may see it through the flames." And this wasn't the tragic ending to a life that was dedicated to faith. This was the moment of deep faith that St. Joan of Arc's entire life had been leading up to. And so in the same way, we are called not to waste our suffering. St. Joan of Arc didn't sit there and be like, oh man, this is the end. I can't believe it came to this point. St. Joan of Arc was like, this is what my entire life has been leading up to. And so we should not look at this time and be like, just really waiting for my life to go back to normal. No, we need to use this time even more and glorify God in it. A couple weeks ago, morning prayer presented us with a reading from Nehemiah chapter 8. And it said, "Today is holy to the Lord your God. Do not be sad and do not weep, for today is holy to our Lord. Do not be sad in this day, for rejoicing in the Lord must be your strength." We have to find strength in him today. We have to stay joyful. There's so many reasons to weep, but still, God's grace is sufficient. Still, he is with us. Rejoicing in him must be our strength, for without that, we don't have anything left. So keep calm, carry on, rejoice in the little things, stay focused in the little things. Again, whether that's working or studying or being a good husband or wife, or it's being a good son or daughter, it's being a good friend, whatever it is, focus on those things, but also stay focused on the big things too. And remember that we are totally reliant on the Lord, and especially in this time where we might feel more isolated, we might feel like we're away from everybody, the Lord is with us even now. A good question to ask isn't, why is this happening to me? But where is the Lord in all this? And I think if you ask yourself that question, you'll be able to live your life and your quarantine fully for God's glory. And so in this time of Lent, let us remember that Jesus carried onward to Mount Calvary despite the weight of the cross. And we too can continue to carry our cross, as it might even feel heavier in this time, and continue onward and unite it to Christ's cross.